Well, we've seen the first 30 Celsius since early July, and it looks as if we are well and truly back in the summer mode, despite the fact that we're now out of meteorological summer. Thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Logan's European Outlook. Hope everybody is well and enjoying the sunshine if you have that opportunity to do so today. This is the current setup here of the GFS chart. So you can see here with bigger old area of high pressure over the near continent, extending over the UK and Ireland at the moment. Area of low pressure bringing all sorts of nasty weather to parts of Spain and Portugal, where we've seen, of course, tremendous flooding across the Madrid area. But you can see here the situation that we've got. We've got a frontal system here. It is fairly breezy across northern Scotland in particular this afternoon. We have got this frontal system that has got a squeeze in the isobars here, so brisk southwesterly winds here. But while we've got this area of low pressure present just to the west of Iberia, we've also got a squeeze in the isobars between the high over Central Europe and the low of Portugal. That is generating a kind of south to southeasterly wind, and it is importing some rather warm 850 temperatures at the moment here. So as we played through the course of this morning and this afternoon, we've got the 20 Celsius isotherm knocking the door of southern England this afternoon. And across the board, we've got the temperatures of 10 to 15 Celsius at 850. And that is correlating to this. This is the pressure chart, of course. So you've got the south to southeasterly winds over the southern half of the UK, importing that very hot air from the near continent. But also we've got a brisk southwesterly wind over the northern half of the British Isles. So it is generating a rather interesting temperature profile at the moment. It looks as if we did possibly knock on the door of 27 Celsius at Aberdeen Dice Airport. That would, I believe, be the warmest September day on record. Notice here the focus of the warmest temperatures to the east of the country, and of course that is thanks to the brisk southwesterly winds blowing over the hills of the West Highlands and the Grampians, and of course downstream of that we've got the warmest temperatures a bit fresher on the west coast, as you can see here. Even down across Ireland, we've got 26s and 27s. So a very warm day here, the warmest, of course, since early July for everybody. And it looks as if we've seen the first 30 Celsius in parts of, what would that be? Gloucestershire, Wiltshire, Worcestershire. Looks as if this region here is seeing the core of the warmest temperatures this afternoon in England. But if you notice here, according to the Met Office model, it looks as if 30 or 31 Celsius, possibly even a 32 Celsius, is achievable to the south and southeast of the Greater London area tomorrow afternoon. And of course, the warmest temperature of the entire year was set twice in July of 32.2 Celsius. Can we achieve that tomorrow? If it would be actually a temperature warmer than 32.2, which is possible, then it would be the first time since 2016 where we've seen a temperature of the highest levels anywhere in the UK during the entire year, out with the meteorological summer. So I think that would be quite interesting to see if we get there. Incidentally, by the way, the overnight minimum here at Marfogan HQ was actually 15.4 yesterday. That is the warmest overnight minimum of the entire year here at the house, actually, which is quite interesting. We did get one night where it stuck at 16.5, but the temperature did actually drop during the daytime, so it doesn't actually count as an overnight minimum. But I thought that was quite interesting that we get into the month of September and actually see some of the warmest nighttime temperatures of the entire year. Looking at the situation here, so why are we seeing this warmth at the moment here? Now, what we've got is we've, of course, had the tropics involved in the pattern here. And as I play through the loop here, so if we go back to the current situation, what we've got is we've got Franklin. Here's Idalia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's the pronunciation that I'm sticking with anyway. But we've also got Franklin. Now, Franklin has done the business here. It has been transporting warm tropical air northwards, and that has been pumping this area of high pressure to its northeast. So of course we've got a very strong and deep area of low pressure just off the southeast of Greenland here. As Franklin moves north, you notice here that heights rise to the east of the system, and that has been essentially building the area of high pressure that we've got now over the UK and Ireland, but also the trough that we've seen just a few days back. That has been then forced southwards as heights rise over the UK and Ireland. It's forced an area of low pressure to cut off from the main jet stream and dive south over Iberia here. Hence why we've seen tremendous flooding in parts of Spain and indeed Portugal in recent days here. So as you can see here, this is off the GFS, the 500 millibar geopotential heights, and then also the mean sea level pressure in millibars. You can see the situation that we've got going at the moment here. So as we step yesterday into today, there's the remnants of Franklin then moving out. It's no longer tropical. It's now a kind of typical area of low pressure, but it's got a lot of warmth associated with it still. And then, of course, we've got the big, strong area of high pressure over the UK and Ireland. When you've got typically high pressure, strong at that, over the UK and Ireland, you have often lower pressure over Spain and Portugal. And that's exactly what we've seen back during, late May, into June. We had a fairly wet and relatively cool, most of June across Spain and Portugal. Then, of course, we reversed the overall pattern. We had lower pressure to the north, higher pressure to the south, and then, of course, we've seen the reversal in the overall weather conditions here. But you notice here that as we push through the next few days here, the warmest air will come tomorrow as that area of low pressure, associated with the remnants of Franklin, push a little bit further towards the UK and Ireland. It then pumps the area of high pressure and also imports some of that very warm air from the continent up into the British Isles, hence why we may approach the warmest temperatures of the entire year so far. There's that area of low pressure off Iberia. It's got nowhere to go. It's kind of stuck, trapped in place, so it kind of just meanders underneath this area of high pressure. Now, it's as we play through this sequence here, you notice these two areas of low pressure almost kind of come together. We still have that area of high pressure over the UK and Ireland through the course of tomorrow. This will be the peak of the heat. I think we may get another 30 plus day on Wednesday here. And as you notice here, those two areas of low pressure, both the one over Iberia and the remnants of Franklin, has now joined forces to become one large area of low pressure, as you can see here. Could this potentially be a little bit of a game changer as we push through the second half of the week? It's possible. You notice here that there's a Dahlia now up towards the coastal region of Newfoundland, or should I say Nova Scotia actually. But notice here that we are starting to see the dynamics change in the upper air pattern. We're starting to see this area of low pressure become a little bit more of a player here. Heights are starting to come down over the UK gradually. And notice here the squeeze in the isobars across the far north of the UK. We could have some pretty windy conditions with this type of situation. But notice as we step towards the 10th of September, we still have high pressure and control. But notice the remnants of Idalia now is starting to get caught in the westerlies. Fairly brisk westerlies at that, by the way. The jet stream winds, it looks as if it will become stronger as warm air moves up towards the north. We've got that cooler area of low pressure to the north, and then of course that imbalance and that squeeze in the differential means that we have stronger jet stream winds. And then it looks as if the GFS operation at least starts to see a little bit of a collapse in the heights over the UK and Ireland here, but it looks as if it's going to take a little bit longer here before we get there. All the while, you notice here that area of low pressure is not getting anywhere. It's not going anywhere. It's divorced from the jet stream well to the north, and it looks as if we maintain this setup. Notice here this system here over the Atlantic here. We need to keep our eyes on that there. That become the next major hurricane over the Atlantic basin, just to the north of the leewards, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola. We need to keep an eye on that very closely because this looks like it could be a beast. Looks as if it's like 934 millibars in the central pressure here. So a pretty bona fide area of hurricane forced winds in this region of the world here. But notice the difference here as we push towards the 10th and the 11th of September. According to the latest run of the GFS, it looks as if we do have still high pressure clinging on, but we've got lowering heights to the north of the British Isles here. And then as we play towards the period Wednesday the 13th, Thursday the 14th, there's an area of low pressure seen by the model moving across the northern half of the British Isles here as an area of low pressure, of course. Then we'll have another area of high pressure, you notice here, building into the UK and Ireland here. So it may see, a lowering of heights, an area of low pressure moving through towards the 12th, 13th, 14th of September. But after that, do we see the high pressure coming back into play once again across the UK? That is the golden question. But it looks like really up until about the 10th, 11th of September, we really do cling on to drier and more settled conditions across the UK and Ireland here. Quite interesting, but also quite a complex situation when you involve the tropics overall. Looking at the 850 temperatures here as we push towards Tuesday, of course, we ingest the warmest air 850 here during the course of tomorrow. It looks like into the southeast we may have the 20 Celsius isotherm moving in. That would send the temperatures into at least the low 30s for surface temperatures, and we'll need to keep an eye on that as we go forward here. Even as we push towards Thursday, it looks as if we've still got plenty of warmth at 850 over the majority of the UK. Notice here slightly cooler air moving into the far northwest here, but it's all the while still mild pattern overall. Now, also we could still see the warmest temperatures, Aberdeenshire, the Murray Coast, areas that are seeing those strong west to southwesterly winds crossing over the hills. We get that downslope compressional warming, the Fern effect, hence why we're seeing 27 this afternoon at Aberdeen Dice Airport here. Playing through the sequence here, we maintain this relatively warm pattern here, especially across England and Wales. A little bit fresher, slightly fresher across the north of the British Isles here, and then notice here that 850 temperatures really come down. Remember, I showed you that area of low pressure moving through, later Wednesday into Thursday of next week. That is, of course, the 14th of September here. But then as we play through the loop, it looks as if that brief spell of cool comes in, and then we have another shot of warmer air coming up from the south here. A warmer and drier September, remember, is part of the forecast. If you haven't already done so, be sure to check out that on markhoganweather.com. There is a link in the description below. If you haven't already done so, by the way, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I know I've got plenty of comments saying, when am I doing a winter forecast? I'm only starting to build the ideas, and I promise you I will share them ideas here on the channel. If you're interested in winter, it certainly is going to ramp up with regards to ideas and thoughts. Also, be sure to check out Gav's Weather Vids. He did do a detailed first winter roundup, I believe, back on yesterday. So do check out Gav's Weather Vids because he puts a tremendous amount of work into that. Some of his ideas are terrific. So I greatly encourage you to check out Gav's Weather Vids if you're not already familiar with his channel. But I will be looking more in detail at the overall autumn ideas here. Of course, we're starting off on a warm, dry note. I do expect during the second half of the season, so i.e. later October into November, a potential change to weather conditions across the UK and Ireland here. And quite often, a wet November can correlate to an early start to the winter season in northwestern Europe here. So we're going to be looking at the solar situation, the easterly QBO that we've got in place this upcoming winter season. Of course, the El Nino, what kind of El Nino that we have towards the late autumn into the early portion of the winter will probably dictate the type of winter that we see. If the warmest waters are stuck against the South American coast, I would pretty much guarantee a warm, fairly changeable winter. If we can get the warmest waters out towards the Central Pacific, known as a Madoki El Nino, we could be off to the races with regards to winter conditions. The positive IOD, or Indian Ocean Dipole, also needs to weaken as we push through the second half of autumn as well. A strong positive IOD and a strong El Nino, it's pretty much game over when it comes to winter, in my opinion. We've seen too many examples of that in times gone by. Finally, let's have a look at the ocean temperatures here, because this is quite interesting. This is a change in the last 7 days. Now, notice here areas of cooling. There's more cooling than there is warming. Notice the western portion of the Mediterranean basin. Of course, we had that frontal system sweep through, bringing those mistral winds, that northwesterly winds, upwelling the waters here. Indian Ocean has cooled somewhat. We've got some cooling in the Pacific, and we also have some of that cooling due to Idalia and also Franklin Uh,